Hi, welcome back from break. Be yourself. Roxie asking herself, what is herself? All the probabilities out there of what she wants to be. The question of the Christ conscience came into play. Scared the living shit out of her. She doesn't want to represent the Christ conscience. But then she understood that we are all representing the Christ conscience. Christ was only one thing. Eternal love. He realized that and ascended. Did not die on the cross. He was actually substituted by the one you call betrayed him. The person on the cross was not Jesus. That information's out there in somewhere. What is the Christ conscience? Eternal love. All of you representing yourselves as that gives you the power. Some of you might equate it to arrogance. David Koresh popping in your head. The self-claimed messiahs. But they were acting upon their highest excitement. The Christ conscience is not ego, in your terms of altered ego, truly. The Christ conscience is being eternal love. Eternal love. Being that. Being the beacon of light. Shedding your beam of light. Piercing the darkness. As the eternal flame that you are. In that context, Roxie understood. Being everything she can be in the moment that equates in her logical mind, her intuition mind, her limitations, to be the Christ conscience. Not to stand on the podium and preach and regurgitate parables, verses. No. A representation of being herself in the moment. True love. Eternal love. Unconditional love. And finding herself, once again, in the oddest places. Questioning her own reality. Why am I here? For the collective. For the needed hug. For the support. For the words. For the vibration. All of you are the Christ conscience. The collective gave itself, human collective, a Christ. Played out once again 3 times in your conceivable timeline. This one took hold. Yes, the idea was abused, but you needed the idea of that. And now, along with Pope Francis, shedding that paradigm of God outside of you. Living the idea that you are God inside of you. The Christ conscience. All of you are that. Do not, if you choose, have the idea of what it's supposed to be. For that was that now. This is this now. The Christ conscience is being yourself in all aspects of humanity. Not wearing a loincloth, not being a minimalist, not being huge, humble, not living simply. It is being yourself. We want you to understand, if you are being yourself and you choose an image, and that image to the world is your highest truth, then that is being yourself. If the image is for gratification, acceptance, status, separation, then that is limitation. How do you want to represent yourself to the collective, to the world? One way. Be the Christ conscience that you are. Be yourself. In every moment, take undeniable action of being yourself. Don't you know you all are magic? Being yourself reveals the magician in you. Every time you act upon your highest excitement, every time you are yourself in the moment, no matter the odds of battle before you in the idea of fear, no matter how many conditioning ideas of perpetuating negative realities you can come up with, being yourself dissipates like an endless sea of love through all of your probabilities, through all of your nows, only giving you the highest joy of the unfolding magic that you have given you to experience, to shine upon the screen of your own projection, to rewrite the program, to show others that being the Christ conscience is essential. Being that eternal love is essential. Letting go of the paradigm that Christ was ever higher than you. That God is anywhere but in you. That you have to actually worship anything outside of you. The Christ conscience is eternal love. It is not for you to pay homage to hope, to give that coincidence as God's will. We are shifting. The collective is shifting and letting go, knowing that the Christ conscience is God, which is you, and letting go of the Christ conscience that God is outside of you. The kingdom of heaven is you. What is the choice? Is the choice ascension before heaven is created on earth? Or perhaps you can fathom the idea of this density living as one, bringing heaven to earth, sharing both densities. living in 4D, 3D, 3D, 4D. The immense possibilities. Anything you can think of is a possibility. Discount that to imagination. Reinforce your limitation. Are all God's thoughts not your thoughts? You are created in God's image. Why would God have a negative thought? Because God is everything. So are you. Shed what you do not prefer by being the Christ conscience. Suffer for the ones that are lost. To go through that which is your belief that you do not prefer. Turn that suffering into love. Because you have accepted the challenge of humanity. Realizing upon incarnation for thousands and thousands of times that the only way you're going to wake up, ascend the species, is with each other. Do you see the power of the collective? You're never alone. You're never lonely. This is Ocyphius. Our eternal love and gratitude to you all. The Christ conscience. We bid you good day. Adonai. Good stuff.
So basically, where are you refusing to be the hero of your own story?
Yeah. The hero of your own story.
You're the only one here.
We can think on this one forever, can't we?
And the refusal of it's part of the story.
Everything is part of the story.
Very introspective. It's like a feeling of like inner reflection.
Oh, huge.
Well, and for some people, this is going to be kind of challenging, you know, where you talk about,
yeah.
you know, but you know, the part about Jesus and,
Yeah.
okay, but in the Great Commission, when Jesus left the planet, he said to us, "And greater works than these will you do." He expected us to surpass him.
Absolutely. That's good. And we can. It's time.
Yeah. He just opened the door.
Everyone's playing their part.
So evidently we all have trouble receiving.
What's that?
So evidently we all have trouble receiving that divine light so that we can be the hero of our own story.
Right. Be the hero of your own story. We're allowed. We're the only one here. No selfishness in that. Only self-love, I think.
Yes, I'm currently in the process of externalizing how it pains me to receive or ask for help.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
that
just
one.
realized that while we were sitting here. I was like, wow, look at that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, can't even do the simplest things. Must ask for help. I despise
Oh,
helplessness.
I know.
I seriously do.
I know.
And
Oh, we have to ask.
I realize now that is the block to receiving that compassion of divine
Right.
love.
It's just surrender.
Right.
Yeah.
I
You're
can't
allowed to
despise the
ask for
helplessness
help.
and help it at the same time. I just can't do it. It's not-
Because what he just said, we're here only through each other, to help each other.
Mhm.
And we're allowed to ask for help.
Sure.
Because, then I think a judgment may come in, well, your universe isn't working because you have to ask for help.
Right.
But you're the only one here, so everybody else in your universe is actually you, so why not use them?
So why not use them?
Did you crack your windows?
Because it's
Is it raining?
Yeah,
Yes, yes, yes.
No, I think they're open.
No, you
I
won't.
mean, closed.
We're really not closed right now. It's really pouring down, okay?
My umbrella's in the car.
Yay!
I had that thing about standing out in the rain when I was driving here.
Uh-huh.
Oh, wow.
But don't you think it's like, I mean, I just find everything I'm looking for is right here.
Sure.
The connections, in this room. I mean, I could go sit in my studio and go, oh, well, I know it all, I don't need any help, but I don't
But when you
believe
get in this
that. But I
interaction
believe
with
that,
each other.
yeah. Mhm.
Well, and he was talking about the dragon that I've always been. In Chinese astrology, I'm the dragon,
Yep.
right? The dragon has always been with me. I've always played that paradigm. When he came along, I showed him Edward
Okay.
came along, I showed him the paradigm of the knight in shining armor and the damsel in distress, and I said, I am the dragon and I would like to char both of them, because that paradigm is silly. There is no rescuing, it's all you.
Right.
The only reason you ever want to rescue somebody else is because you need to be rescued yourself. Yeah, and so, yes, and so I never wanted to
Sounds very Taylor.
embody that kind of,
Yeah, rather than being the damsel in distress,
Yes.
you were the resourceful princess, okay?
exactly.
That was our paradigm.
The end result of that was that I ended up really not liking helplessness.
Yeah.
Right.
In other words, equating it with, some
Weakness.
Weakness, equating
And
it
it's
with
not.
weakness. Yes.
It's not.
Yes.
Yeah, you run into people all the time who embody either they're choosing to embody the savior energy, or they're choosing to embody
Precisely.
victimhood
Right.
in some form, which
But
is
it-
again like
right.
everything else in horrendous layers.
Sure.
And so
It just perpetuates.
Yeah, at this period of time, we all call it victimhood and
Sure.
things like that. And
Sure.
we look at it and it's like, it's quite a step to get past people who you recognize are living that paradigm and then
Well, and
go
that's,
and not have judgment about it.
yeah, and
Yeah.
not having judgment about it, but also not being attached to it,
Mhm.
is that compassionate detachment
Yes.
of allowing it to play out and not judging it, but also not attaching anything to it, right? And so I was missing out on the not attaching something to it. And
It's like I was feeling bad a couple of months ago. I'd taken this workshop here on death and dying, and we talked a lot about judgment. And I said, well, I feel so bad because I'm judging this person, And I was explaining to the woman that I've been with him, and that physically, he was very gross. His energy was just terrible for me. And so when I was telling her this, she said, well, there's a difference between judgment and seeing clearly.
Awareness.
Right.
And so I
Discernment, observation.
so I was able to say, oh, when you feel other people's energy, it is that discernment that you don't, but if I'm going to judge you, there's a whole other energy attached to that.
Right.
It's like, oh, do you
Yeah, there's a
you
whole
think
nother
that?
approach
So-
to it.
So as you go along
Yeah.
this path, your
Yeah.
awareness increases and increases. So then you want to ask for your allowance to exceed your awareness,
Yeah, that's
so that you don't feel like you're judging someone when you're
Oh,
just
okay.
aware of
Okay,
them.
okay.
Right.
Yeah, and that brings in the compassion issue.
Yeah.
Right there.
Right,
Because
yes,
because it's like, if you're choosing, which nobody's gonna argue that they have that absolute divine right, to choose, and you're gonna choose to not have that energy in your life,
Mhm.
Right.
that's not a judgment. That is a healthy choice.
Right.
There
You
is-
don't, coming up with reasons why, then you go into the land of judgment.
Right.
It's just like, no, I don't choose that. And you know, it's much, you know, to stay in the line of compassion.
Let me
at
say
that
this
point.
and I'll let you go real quick. I remember Seth, when I was reading Seth Speaks, it was, you're observing,
Right.
and he said this, you can never know the battle that's going on in that person's head. So acceptance and compassion is a different vibration from that approach to that interaction. Doesn't mean you have to stay there and give them that. Understand what they are and move on with your now. You know? Always remember, every entity, every single entity has their own battle. They're going through their own rodeo that they chose their path to ascend. So give them the love, the acceptance, and if they're not choosing to vibrate in your reality, give them a Coke and a smile and move on. Go ahead, Ed, what were you saying?
There's another way to look at this
Let's go.
experience, and that is everything in our lives that we vibrate into our lives is a mirror and a reflection of what we are experiencing in ourselves. And if we choose to look at the mirror and turn the mirror around and shine it back at that person and not look at that mirror and what it is in us, then we miss an opportunity for growth and expansion in ourselves. So if we see someone who we feel has negative energy, is gross, or is this or that, what is that? Why did we bring that person into our lives? Why did that person come into our lives? And what are they a mirror of that we feel inside ourselves as negative?
Well, let me ask you a question. What if you don't feel anything negative?
Then you have vibrated beyond any judgment in that
Right.
person's energy.
Right. So I think whenever there is a
Judgment.
friction in you, then that is the reflection you need to understand.
Perfect.
But when it is peaceful and you see that and you're like,
Then you've
look,
already come to that place of compassion.
but then I think that's your vibration giving them the opportunity to see that they are loved through their own mirror of reflection.
Sure.
And they can look at it in a different
I
perspective.
think
as well.
it needs to be with Ed's higher self. It gives us a good lesson for the collective. Is sure they might be that, or they might have the potential of being that, but just because we see it doesn't mean they're there yet. We're actually giving them the vibration, right? So I think it's, even if they don't feel bad for you or negative, and you feel sort of like I'm giving them energy, it doesn't necessarily mean they're ready for the energy.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Right.
true.
Right.
So I think focusing too much on each individual interaction instead of in the result of that,
Right.
what's going to happen to them, right?
Well-
Because I really think what the Coke and the smiles